In the Austrian Alps, there's a lake. In 1945, Nazi officers backed 10 trucks up to this lake and threw everything in. Crates, boxes, whatever they were carrying. Then they shot the witnesses. The lake is 100 meters deep. The bottom is covered in centuries of compressed logs. Diving in is effectively banned. Several people have died trying. Over 75 years later, most of what's in that lake has never been recovered. Lake Toplitz sits in the Salzkammergut region of Austria, remote, cold, surrounded by dense forest. In 1945, almost inaccessible, which is exactly why the Nazi SS chose it. In the final weeks of World War II, as Allied forces closed in, SS units began moving valuables out of Berlin and other cities. Lake Toplitz was used as a dumping ground for things they didn't want found. What we know for certain was thrown in, crates of counterfeit British pounds. Part of Operation Bernhard, the Nazi plan to flood Britain with fake currency and collapse its economy. Over 100 million pounds worth of expertly forged notes were eventually recovered from the lake. So realistic that some are still showing up in circulation decades later. But the counterfeits were only part of what went in. Eyewitness accounts from surviving SS officers describe crates of gold, jewelry, documents, possibly stolen artwork, and something described by multiple witnesses as the most sensitive Nazi documents. Whatever those documents were, nobody who knows for certain has ever said. And the lake has kept its secrets ever since. In 1959, the first serious salvage attempt was made. A joint German-American expedition recovered some of the counterfeit notes, but the lake's unique conditions made deeper exploration dangerous. Lake Toplitz has a peculiar characteristic. Below 20 meters, there's almost no oxygen, which preserves everything at the bottom extraordinarily well, but also makes diving extremely hazardous in ways standard equipment can't fully address. The bottom is covered in hundreds of years of waterlogged logs from old timber operations. They form a compressed maze that divers can easily get trapped in. At least 2 divers have died, attempting unauthorized exploration of the lake. In 2000, the National Geographic Society conducted an authorized expedition with advanced remotely operated vehicles. They found more crates, confirmed the scale of what was dumped. But recovering sealed crates from under logs at 100 meters with no oxygen is still enormously difficult. The Austrian government has restricted diving at the lake, partly for safety and partly for legal reasons. Any recovered Nazi assets technically belong to the Austrian state and to Holocaust restitution efforts, which means treasure hunters who find something and try to keep it are committing crimes. But that hasn't stopped people from trying. To this day, Lake Toplitz remains only partially explored. Here's why this lake still matters, 80 years later. The Nazi gold question is real but probably exaggerated. Yes, some gold may be down there, but the volume described in rumors is likely wildly inflated. What's potentially more significant are the documents. The most sensitive Nazi documents described by witnesses could be anything. Lists of war criminals who were never identified or prosecuted. Bank accounts and financial networks used to hide looted assets that are still active today. Intelligence records of Nazi spies embedded in post-war governments and institutions. Any of these would be historically explosive even in 2025, which is why, 80 years later, some parties may still prefer certain crates stay exactly where they are. The lake doesn't give up its secrets easily, and some of those secrets may be more dangerous than gold. 10 trucks, a remote alpine lake, witnesses shot, 80 years of silence, some crates recovered, most still on the bottom, and documents that some people may still not want found. If you want more stories where history is still actively being hidden, subscribe. Next week, perfectly spherical metal balls found inside 3 billion-year-old rock.